See, I'm glad I paid my brother $20 to say that. Well, thank you so much for being here today. So nice to get a nice introduction. I wish I had a super epic intro video like Liz did. Like, and here is Trent Horn. It would just be me like yelling at my kids or something like that. Get in your rooms. And it's right that we don't know what's going to happen in the future and whatever may happen with the Supreme Court, but we do know that each of us has an obligation to speak up for the unborn. And that's what I want to share with you today and give you some tips to be able to do that. First, I want to share with you how I kind of got started in this and an incident that really sticks out in my mind. I started going back in the early 2010s, 2000, 2010, with the group Justice for All. They actually have a table in the exhibit hall. Definitely check them out, jfaweb.org. We would go to university campuses and set up big exhibits with pictures of the unborn before and after abortion. They were about 18 feet high, so a little bit higher than the screen back here, 40 feet wide. You could see them from a quarter of a mile away. And so people would come and they would debate. I remember we went to a university in the Southwest, and we were setting up the exhibit in the morning, and I told the executive director, David at the time, I said, David, I get a weird feeling being at this school. He's like, you do? I said, yeah, like, it's really weird. Like, my stomach hurts. Like, I feel weird at this particular school. And he said, well, there's a reason you should feel that way, Trent. At this school's medical center, they teach students how to perform abortions. And so they were, performing, learning. Now, the way that they learn how to do that is you can see some of the medical students will go outside, and their homework is they take a papaya, which is about the size of a uterus, and they practice vacuuming out its contents. And some of them will do this and show others because they think it's a neat thing. And so later that afternoon, one of those medical students who was training to become an abortion provider comes up to our exhibit and says, why are you here? Why are you doing this? Abortion isn't a big deal. It's just terminating a pregnancy. Now, I would ask you, what would you say to someone who said abortion is just terminating a pregnancy? Now, you might want to go on the offense. You might want to say, it doesn't terminate a pregnancy, it terminates a baby. What's the matter with you? How could you do something like that? You might want to go on the offense. But my wife and I have been binging a show since January 1st called Cobra Kai. I don't know if anyone's seen it or not. Now, there is a time for a more offensive style, Cobra Kai, but the next 20 minutes, I would prefer to teach you Miyagi-Do, pro-life apologetics. More of a defensive, turn your opponent's argument against them. And so I just said to her, well, can I ask you a question? What is a pregnancy? What does it mean for a woman to be pregnant? She said, well, what are you talking about? I said, well, you're saying it terminates a pregnancy. What is a pregnancy? And she stumbled for a bit because she didn't want to admit what that was. And she said, well, pregnant means you have a fetus inside of you. And I said, oh, okay. What's a fetus? Like, what is a fetus? What's the definition of a fetus? And she looked at our big, ugly exhibit and pointed to a picture and said, that's a fetus. And I said, well, that's an example, not a definition. And she said, well, if you're so smart, why don't you tell us? I'm thinking you're studying to be a doctor, but all right. I said, and there was a crowd forming around us. And I said, well, any of you can look on your smartphones to check this, but among human beings, a fetus refers to the stage of development in the life of a human being from the 8th week of life until birth. So you're saying abortion terminates a human being that is somewhere between 8 and 40 weeks old. Why do you think that's an okay thing for a doctor to do? And so we started on the conversation, and it was very productive, especially for the people watching, because I'm not having high hopes I'm going to change this future abortion provider's mind. Maybe I will. But my goal is really for the people on the fence. And that should be a lot of our goals as well. Like maybe you'll interact with someone who's really a hot-headed pro-choice advocate on Facebook or Twitter or social media. You might not be able to have high hopes of changing their mind. But other people who are more on the fence about the issue, they might read your post. They might read the comment thread. And the question is, how will you come off to them? And so a few points to remember when we're engaging others. Number one, the facts speak loudly, so we don't have to. The facts speak loudly, so we don't have to. That we should assert the importance of this issue and put forward arguments in a vigorous way, but we don't have to do it in a loud or aggressive way. The facts speak loudly. We don't have to. Number two, people won't care if the unborn are human unless they first see that we're human. What does that mean? People won't care if the unborn are human unless they see that we are human. Unless they see that we're willing to validate someone, that the concerns that they have are real concerns. I am really concerned about people dying from back alley abortions. I'm concerned about anyone dying from abortions. I'm concerned about poverty. I think it's terrible that we can live in a place where there's so much wealth and opulence, and yet there are people even in this country who don't know, who have to make a choice between paying to keep their lights on or keeping their fridge full. So people won't care that if we aren't willing to even acknowledge those basic things, people will think that we're these walking ideological robots. That's not what we want to do. And then number three, we need to always stay focused on one question, on the one question that matters most. What are the unborn? If we deviate from that question, we will lose. If you talk about poverty, if you talk about government programs, contraception, religion, anything else that's not abortion, we'll lose. The other side desperately wants us to talk about anything, or at least not talk about abortion. That if people don't talk about abortion, they win. How many of you have been in a class where your teacher has said, everyone has to write a report, a term paper on a persuasive topic, but no abortion papers? Does that ever happen to you? Yes, it happened to me as well. And my teacher knew I was a big pro-life advocate. She said, yeah, nobody can write on abortion. And so then 2 weeks later, I handed in my paper. He said, oh, okay, Mr. Horn, what did you write on? I said, oh, I took your advice. I didn't write on abortion. He said, oh, what did you write on? What is a person? Enjoy the paper. What are the unborn is what we need to focus on. If we don't focus on that, we will lose. But how do we do that? Because most arguments for abortion don't answer that question. They don't answer the question, what are the unborn? Instead, most arguments for abortion follow this framework. Abortion needs to be legal because it solves problems for born people. Like, fill in the blank here. Abortion should be legal because why? What do people say? Go ahead, shout it out. Yeah, women's rights, convenience, poverty, rape. You know what I didn't hear anybody say? Because a fetus is a clump of cells. People will say that later, but that's not what they lead with. So when you're engaging people on the issue of abortion, remember, we always want to get back to the one question, what are the unborn? We don't want to get off topic. When I ask people, why should abortion be legal? I divide the reasons they give into two areas, and that's what you should do as well. Reasons that are off topic and reasons that are on topic, or answer the question, what are the unborn? Let's see if you can follow with me. I'll throw out a reason. You tell me if it's off topic or on topic. Abortion should be legal because women have a right to choose. Is that off or on topic? Off topic. Doesn't answer the question. Abortion should be legal because a fetus can't feel pain. On topic. Off and on topic, like, wrong. Late-term fetuses can feel pain. This is not right or wrong. It's, does it answer the question, what are the unborn? Well, does it say something about the unborn? Even if it's false, does it answer the question? Yes, that's on topic. Even if the person is wrong about the unborn, I want to talk about the unborn. That's important. So if it's on topic, great, let's talk about what are the unborn. Are they human? Are they persons? Even if they're wrong about that, about the unborn, I want to talk about that. So I want to get from things that are off topic to on topic. Because if it's off topic, we'll get into conversations. Who's been in a conversation like this? Abortion should be legal because some women live in poverty. And you as a pro-lifer, you don't even believe in social programs to help with poverty. Well, I believe in programs that will help, but not inefficient government programs that increase poverty. No, you don't care about the poor. You do. Has anyone ever been in a conversation like that and it just falls apart? Yeah, same. I don't want to be in those conversations because I want to talk about what are the unborn. So how do we do that? We use a technique that my friend Scott Klusendorf developed called Trot Out a Toddler. And it's been refined by my friends at Justice for All. And we call it the 4 A's. Agree, apply, ask why, and ah. I want you to repeat them after me. Agree. Apply. Ask why, and ah. I'll give you an example where I use this in real life. I was at a very tolerant university campus called the University of California in Berkeley once. And I was doing a debate on abortion. After the debate, we did Q&A, and one of the students stood up and said, Mr. Horn, what about a woman who lives in a country where there's rampant poverty, she already has 2 children, she can barely feed, and she's pregnant? Shouldn't she be able to have an abortion so that her children don't end up starving? Now, what would be the off-topic response? To say they're not going to starve. There's international adoption. There's foreign aid. Now we're not talking about what are the unborn. Instead, we use the 4 A's. Let's see if you can remember them. The first one was agree. The second was third. And then okay. So first, agree. I said to her, you know what? I agree with you. People who live in situations like that, that's tragic. I have 3 children. And I don't know what I would do if I legitimately thought I wouldn't be able to feed them. That's terrifying to me. Now, why am I wasting my time agreeing? Remember what I said earlier? People won't care if the unborn are human unless they see that we are human. So I'm starting with agreement, that I can always find something to agree with the other person who disagrees with me on abortion. So that builds common ground, that if we can get closer together, it's easier to bridge our disagreement. So agree, the next step is apply. Apply always starts the same way. You say, imagine I have a 2-year-old here, and you take the original reason to justify abortion, and you apply it to that 2-year-old. So I said to her, well, let me ask you a question. This pregnant woman, let's say she already has a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and she's worried she can't feed them. Instead of aborting the baby, why not just kill the 2-year-old? And then she still has 2 children. Do you think that would be an okay solution? And she said, well, no, that would be ridiculous. Agree, apply, what's the next step? Ask why. Because it's really tempting to say, well, if that's ridiculous, then abortion must be ridiculous, right? Or not Cobra Kai or Miyagi-Do, okay? Well, let me just ask you a question. Why? Why can't she kill the 2-year-old? Like, why? Well, because it's illegal. Do you think it should be illegal? Yeah, why? Why should it be illegal? Well, because you can't kill human beings. Agree, apply, ask why. You say, that's the issue. I don't do this as pretentious, but you say, okay, that's the issue. What are the unborn? Because if the unborn child is as human as the 2-year-old, if they're both human, just as we wouldn't kill a 2-year-old who lives in poverty, we shouldn't kill an unborn child either, if they're equally human. That's where we disagree. Do you think an unborn child is as human as a 2-year-old? No, it's just a fetus. All right, so instead of being off topic, now where are we? We're on topic. That's where we want to be. Agree, apply, and apply is always the same way. Whenever you hear an off-topic reason, doesn't answer what the unborn are. I think some women have the right to choose. Okay, well, imagine I had a 2-year-old here, and his mom wants to go back to school and become a doctor. Should she be able to choose to kill him? No. So agree, apply. What's the third step? Ask why, because that's the subtle one. Just humor me. I know it's a dumb question. But why not? Why not? So at this point, though, many people, this is not the entire pro-life case. People will say, it's different. It's not human, or it's not a person. So at this point, we'll use 2 methods, science and philosophy. We can say, well, the unborn are certainly biological human beings, and a quick and easy way to do that is to show the unborn are alive, human, whole organisms. And that's what we want to show. They're just small human beings, biological human beings. How do we show they're alive? Well, if they're growing by cellular reproduction, then they have to be alive. I was at a debate once, and someone stood up at the end and said, Mr. Horn, in the Q&A, you didn't even prove the fetus is alive. And I looked at my chart, my PowerPoint with all its scientific evidence, and I was like, okay. So I asked him a question. I said, well, let me ask you this. What does abortion do to a fetus? He said, well, it makes it go away. And I said, where? Cleveland? What happens? Clearly, and I said, this is a grim argument. If the unborn are not alive, you don't need abortion. So clearly the unborn are alive. And they're also human, because they have human DNA and they come from human parents. Alive human, of course, my skin cells are alive and human. So is abortion like getting rid of skin cells? No, because skin cells, sperm and egg, these are body parts. The unborn is their own body with many parts. And I use something I call the net test to establish the difference, okay? What's the difference between skin cells, sperm cells, egg cells, cancer cells, and a human embryo? Well, the net test helps us determine whether something is a body part or a whole body. Net, N-E-T. I ask the question, can I give this thing nutrition, environment, the right environment, and time? If I give it these three things, can it develop into a mature member of a species? Nutrition, the right environment, and time. So if I give an infant, a puppy, a fungi, you or me, if I give it nutrition, the right environment, and time, can it develop? Yes. For you and I, it has to be a certain environment. We can't be, at the bottom of the Marianas Trench or at the top of Mount Everest for very long. We need nutrition, time, and the right environment. For the unborn, they need nutrition, the right environment, which is the womb, and time, and they can develop. Not everyone will. Some will die either naturally or by the hands of someone else, but they can develop. Now take sperm, egg, cancer cells, skin cells. Give them any nutrients. Put them in any environment. Give them infinite time. What will you have? Sperm, egg, cancer cells, skin cells, body parts. So it's very, very clear. The unborn is an individual member of our species. But at this point, some people will say, well, so what? It's not a person, though. And I say, where have I heard that one before? And I sometimes ask, every time in the past when someone has said a group of humans are not persons, have they been right or have they been wrong? They've always been wrong. So what are the odds they're still wrong? It's very, very high. So at this point, though, when people say the unborn is not human, try some Miyagi-Do pro-life, instead of saying, of course they're human, of course they're persons, and rattling off the evidence, what is a person? Can you give me a definition of a person? Because if you're confident the unborn are not persons, you have to know what a person is in order to disqualify them. Otherwise, you're just asserting that. You're not arguing it. Now, when people argue, what they'll often try to do is what people have always done when people have tried to disqualify other humans from the human community, whether it's women, whether it's African slaves, whether it's Jews, Gypsies, Roma in the Holocaust, whether it's Native Americans, always the same pattern, okay? They'll pick a difference between us and the unborn, pick a difference between the powerless group and the powerful group. There's a difference. That difference means they're not persons. And I'll say, I agree, the unborn are different from us, but those differences are as morally irrelevant as skin color or nationality or whether you're a man or a woman. So what are those four differences? When you hear someone say the unborn is not a person, identify one of those four differences and show the difference is morally trivial. Those differences are summarized by a pro-life philosopher, Stephen Schwartz, in an acronym that he calls SLED, S-L-E-D, all right? So S in SLED stands for size. How can that be a person? It's just the size. When it's an embryo, it's the size of a period at the end of a sentence. How is that a person? Well, we can ask, does size determine our value? And the answer is no. If size determined our value, then men, on average, would be more valuable than women. Women, is that true? No. There you go. Thank you. All right. I could take a premature infant, fits in the palm of my hand, 5% of my size. Doesn't mean the child is 5% of my value. So I can agree, the unborn are very small. But how big do you have to be a person? What size? Can you give me a definition? That's S. L is level of development. People will say, well, it's not just that. When they're the size of a period, they can't think, they can't feel. They're not a person. You can't think, you can't feel, you're not a person. And there's three problems with these kinds of arguments. They set the bar too high, too low, or it's arbitrary. I'll say, well, what is a person? What do you have to think or feel? They'll say, when you feel pain, feeling pain is what makes you a person. Really? Rats and pigeons feel pain. Are they people? Are fumigators mass murderers? If pain is enough to make you a person, then yeah, many unborn children would not be persons. Born people, like people in comas, would not be persons either, in reversible comas. But more importantly, you'd have to introduce all kinds of non-human animals. You hit a squirrel, let's hit and run, buddy. You're gonna get locked up because they feel pain. Now, they might say, well, no, it's not just feeling pain. A person has to be able to think more than an animal can. Oh, okay, so a person is any human being that can think at a level higher than non-human animals. So the first problem is the bar is either too low, now the bar is too high, because newborn infants cannot think at a level higher than non-human animals. There's a lot of non-human animals that outperform human infants cognitively. Pigs are very intelligent. Parrots can learn to mimic things. Dolphins are really smart and evil. I don't like dolphins. I do not buy into dolphin propaganda. They're one of the few mammals that kill for fun. They do kill on purpose. And it's true. Don't look at the YouTube videos. But an infant would not be a person. It's too low or too high, or it's arbitrary. It's, well, you have to be able to feel pain and be a member of the human species. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Human plus feeling pain, all right? Human plus other things. Why can't it just be human? Throughout human history, it's been human plus white, human plus male, human plus owning property. Maybe the plus has been humanity's greatest mistake in defining who is and isn't human. Maybe we should just get rid of it, okay? All right. The E in SLED is environment. Stop talking about newborns and toddlers. They're born, they're in the world. Environment, E, a different place. They're in the world, to which I always ask, well, what planet are the unborn on? Why does, if I walk 8 feet, I don't stop being a person. How does someone moving through the birth canal 8 inches, how do they become a person? Where you are does not determine what you are or how valuable you are. So we have size, level of development, environment. The D stands for degree of dependency. This is a very common one. People will say, look, they're not persons because they're totally dependent on their mother's body. They can't survive without their mother. They're totally dependent. And I'll say, you're right. A fetus is completely dependent. But so what? Why does that matter? That's for all these SLED differences, you should ask, you're right, that difference exists, but why does that matter? Because there are born people that are very dependent. You place a newborn baby on a table, a delivery room table in a hospital, they'll be dead in a few days or hours if no one tends to them. They're completely dependent. Would that mean that they're not a person? Or imagine, my friend David once said this, imagine you're at the swimming pool and you are done swimming for the day and you hear a splash and you turn around and you see a 2-year-old has fallen into the pool and nobody else is around. They're completely dependent on you. Do they stop being a person? No. In fact, the dependency argument can be reversed to defend the pro-life position. For example, if somebody came in here, ran up on stage and punched me in the face, that would be wrong, but I understand. I'm an obnoxious pro-life person. It comes with the job, okay? But if, my 7-year-old son was giving a pro-life talk and someone ran up and hit him, even places like CNN, MSNBC would probably think that's really bad. They would downplay what happened to me, but if someone punched a 7-year-old in the face or a 1-year-old, people would be outraged. Why are we more outraged by crimes against children or crimes against the elderly? If I was a 99-year-old pro-life activist giving a talk here and someone punched me, there would be more outrage. Why is there more outrage for a 1-year-old and a 99-year-old being harmed than me? They're more dependent. They're more dependent. So it turns out it's actually worse to commit a crime against someone who is more helpless and dependent. So logically, what human beings are the most helpless and most dependent? The unborn. So crimes against them would be the worst. So now we have Miyagi-Do'd this into a pro-life argument, okay? To take dependency to actually defend the pro-life position, okay? And man, I just wish I had you here for another 3 hours, but there's other cool speakers with probably awesome intro videos that I want you to meet and breakout sessions for you to go to. If you want to go deeper, I'll be doing a breakout session on advanced pro-life apologetics, so we'll go beyond what I spoke of here. But if you also want to go deeper, I want to recommend some resources. I have my book, Persuasive Pro-Life. This book will cover everything you need to know. It is available for a donation at the Justice for All table in the exhibit hall. Go there, you can get a copy. I'll be happy to sign it. I'll be hanging out there afterwards. So check out the Justice for All table. Also check out the Equal Rights Institute. They do a lot of work like this. They're really good. I have another book available at Young Americans for Freedom. It's called Can a Catholic Be a Socialist? The answer is no. Here's why. That's at the YAF table in the exhibit hall. So be sure to check that out. You can get that book there as well. But if you want persuasive pro-life, definitely check out the Justice for All table. Thank you guys so much. Hopefully I'll see you later today.